Do you need external mic pre's, or is your audio interface good enough? Alright, so this week we're answering a viewer question from Mike Hilbin. And also, if you're looking to learn music theory or improve your guitar playing, Mike's got a really great channel on that. He's pretty new to YouTube as well, so I'm going to leave a link to his channel below, so check it out after this.
Tell him, Megatron.
Do as I command!
Okay, jeez.
But the gist of Mike's question is, do you really need an external mic preamp, or are the preamps in your audio interface good enough? Is an external preamp going to help improve your recordings? So this is actually a pretty difficult question to answer, so let's start unpacking this. So whether or not you actually need external mic pre's is sort of a yes, no, it depends sort of question. Now I think among people who are new to recording, I think a lot of them have this misconception that a really good preamp is going to completely change their recordings, which really it's not. Now I mean, don't get me wrong, a good mic preamp is always great to have. But at the same time, a good mic pre is just one component amongst a number of components that are going to make your sound. So in order to kind of best explain where a preamp would fit into the mix, let's travel back into time. We'll go back to the days long before Pro Tools, Logic, and computers, just to give you an idea of where the preamp sort of sits in the mix here. So for sake of argument, we're going to pretend we got a 24-channel inline console feeding a 24-channel tape machine. Now let's say you've got a really great acoustic guitar player playing in a really nice sounding room. So there's components 1 and 2. We got a really good guitar player and a really good sounding room. And I guess 3 would be a really good sounding guitar. So now you stick a really good microphone in front of that. Now that signal is going to come into the mic pre on the console, which along with the microphone and how you position it on the guitar is going to change the sound of the guitar a little bit. Mic pre is going to add a little bit of its own color to it. Now from the mic pre, that guitar signal is going to come down the channel strip. It's going to hit an EQ, potentially a compressor. So 2 more items that are going to change the way the guitar sounds. Now that signal is going to be fed over to the tape machine, which depending on how hard you're hitting the tape machine, that's also going to change the sound of the guitar. Now coming back from the tape machine back into the console, we might be EQing that guitar a little bit more, maybe adding a little bit more compression. Again, continuing to change the guitar sound. Now again, for sake of argument, let's pretend on top of this guitar track you've recorded a couple extra guitar tracks. Maybe you've tracked some bass, you've tracked some drums, and you've tracked some vocals. All through the same process. So now on the console, you're going to have your guitar tracks go to one bus, you're going to have your drums go to another bus, bass vocals to their own buses. So the way that console sums these tracks together in the buses, that's going to have an effect on the sound. And now when all your buses are summed together to come out the main output, the master bus, that's going to change the sound, especially if you're using a bus compressor or anything like that. And then that signal would eventually hit a 2-track tape machine. So that 2-track tape machine is going to change the sound. And then that 2-track tape is going to be sent off to be mastered, which again is going to continue to change the sound. Now, even if you take the tape machine and replace it with a Pro Tools rig, the process is pretty much the same. Except Pro Tools isn't really going to change the sound. It's not designed to do that unless you're throwing plugins on it. So when you look at it that way, yes, a good preamp is always important, but it's just one component amongst a number of components that are going to affect how your recordings sound. Alright, so if we fast forward to today, modern home studios, modern audio interfaces, even inexpensive audio faces in today's standards actually sound really good. The preamps are designed to be as clean and as transparent as possible. The DA converters are worlds above what they were even 10 years ago. So in that respect, we're kind of living in a golden age where we've never had it so good for so little money. Now that's not to say having a really great preamp or two, say Neves or APIs or some universal audio preamps isn't a good thing to have, but there's sort of an upgrading priority order that you have to think about. Now you have to remember that everything starts at the source. So if you have a drum kit, heads are beat to hell, cymbals are all cracked and banged up, and the loudest part of your drum kit is that ridiculously squeaky kick drum pedal that you've got, well, if you take that kit and put it in a fantastic drum room in a big studio, slap $50,000 worth of microphones on it, and track it through a gorgeous Neve console, well, guess what? It's still going to sound like shit because the drum kit itself is shit. So when you're putting your studio together, you always want to make sure that your sources sound really good. Your instruments sound really good. You want to make sure that the room that you're tracking them in sounds as good as you can get it. You also want to make sure that you've got a pretty good grasp on mixing and recording. Because if you don't know what you're doing with this expensive gear, well, then it really doesn't matter because you're not going to get the best out of it. So that would be my recommendation to anybody watching. Make sure your sources are good. Make sure your room sounds as good as you can get it. And make sure that your recording and mixing skills are starting to come together. Get those areas taken care of, and then that's when you'd probably want to start looking into nicer microphones and nicer mic preamps. Alright, so hopefully I explained that in a way that makes sense to everybody watching. If you have any further questions, just leave a comment below. And again, don't forget to check out Mike's channel. I'll have a link in the descriptions. And videos coming up, I think we're going to do some videos on mic and guitar cabinets and that sort of stuff. So keep a watch out for those. Anywho, I've been Mr. Jeff. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video.